Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. This one is going to be relatively straightforward. I want to get to some mail that is backed up here in recent weeks. I have a handful of pickups and a wonderfully thoughtful care package that I received from my friend and yours, Dylan, over at Double D Vintage Baseball Cards that has been sitting here for I think a few weeks now. I am long overdue in getting to it, so we're going to look at that as well. And I think I'm going to title this episode, Break Your Own Rules. Because I realized, at least with respect to the pickups that I'm going to show off, they all kind of fit a theme of breaking hobby rules that I had set for myself. And don't get me wrong, I fully understand the value of having some rules in the hobby or a framework to kind of guide your decision making and what you're going to add to your collection, help you stay focused, provide some guardrails so that you kind of complete some things and don't go too far off the beaten path. I totally get that, but at the same time, I don't want to be so beholden to my own hobby rules and standards that I can't drift outside those when it makes sense, because to me, that makes the hobby feel too much like checking boxes or a chore, and I want kind of the creative license to break the rules where it fits for me. And so the first pickup, we'll just get down to it here, is this beautiful 2022 Topps Independence Day Parallel Aaron Judge card. And this one, these have been around for a few years now. I've talked about them many times. Love this parallel, numbered to 76, going all the way back to 2018, and hopefully continuing on for the foreseeable future. This one in particular broke a couple of different rules that I tend to keep. The first is never trade or sell or give away a card that I find really meaningful and that I really love. It kind of seems like maybe an obvious rule that many people abide by. And for many years, I really would follow that. If a card was cherished and prized within my collection, it was really difficult to pry it from my hands, didn't want to give it up, and I just viewed my collection as something that was always growing larger, never shrinking, but I've kind of gotten away from that in recent years, and this card represents a great example of that, because I used to own this in a PSA 9, and I love this card, I love this parallel, and I think it's really significant for multiple reasons. Of course, this is the year that Aaron set the American League home run record in 2022, besting Roger Maris's 61 years later. And so I think his 2022 issues in general, like this one or the Topps Black that was up when I was getting through the intro there, are really significant. So when I had this graded a 9, it was one of my most prized cards. And I heard a couple of years back now from my good buddy Adam over at Vintage Sanctuary. And he proposed a trade because he was interested in this Independence Day parallel in a PSA 9 form that I had shown off on my channel. Now, at first, I considered maybe politely rejecting Adam's trade offer, again, because of the rule that I had set for myself. But the more I thought about it, the card that he was offering was really special, really meaningful. And I knew that this card, as much as I love it, was a home run for his project where he is working on collecting 62 different parallel versions of this card. So even though I loved the card, it couldn't have ended up in a better place. The card that he was offering me was very compelling and even a better fit for my collection than this card. So I made the trade. And years now, in retrospect, I've been happy with the results. I know Adam has as well. It's been something we've been able to joke and kid each other about as friends and talk about on collaborations here on YouTube. I know that card is in the perfect home. His collection of 2022 Aaron Judge is so impressive, and I've had zero regrets about getting rid of that card. So breaking my own rule and getting rid of a card that was really significant to me paid benefits in this case. And all these years later, I was able to kind of get a copy back after all. It took 2 or 3 years before that happened, but patience paid off, and I can say that I have the Aaron Judge back in my collection at last. And the other rule that this one broke is, out of the Independence Day parallels, I really like the first 2 or 3 years and the most recent 2 or 3 years the most. And 2021, 2022, these are not really that aesthetically pleasing. So you would think, based on that, this wouldn't really be a card I'd be interested in adding to my collection. But I can't just go based on that rule, that if I don't enjoy that year of the parallel, I should just ignore it. Because to me, the other attributes of this card, the fact that it is Independence Day numbered to 76, which is a tribute to our country and our nation's pastime of baseball and kind of the link between those two, and comes from the year that represents the home run record, which is really the record that I think of most when I think of our nation's pastime. Those attributes overruled the fact that I don't really like 2022 Independence Day. So if I just stuck blindly to the avoid the Independence Days that I don't like years rule, I wouldn't have acquired this card. So broke a couple of different rules with this card in my collecting lifetime, and I'm really glad to have another copy back here at last to sit aside the Topps Black. Now, while we're on the Independence Day train, I have another one to look at here before we move on to Dylan's really thoughtful care package. And we're going to talk about another rule that I think is common sense and I hear referenced all the time, which is try to get your cards at a good value. Get them at a price that makes sense. Research comps. Try to not to go over comps or set new comps. And I think that is good common sense advice in most scenarios. But this past summer, I completely ignored that rule and I couldn't be happier with it. And it involves this card here, which is a great segue from the Aaron Judge. Now, I've shown this one in a recent video, but this is the 2019 Topps, the Independence Day parallel, just like the Judge, of Shohei Ohtani. And it's the Hitting Image Rookie Cup. You can see why I mentioned that I like the design on the first couple of years and the last couple of years much better than sort of the middling years there. But this is a card where if I stuck to that advice or that rule to make sure I get good value in my purchases, research comps, don't overspend on a card, I wouldn't own this right now. So I went a complete different direction with this. During some recent health issues that I was experiencing, I had a lot of time to kind of just lay around, quite honestly, and think about my collection and baseball cards and the hobby. And one of the things I did is I tried to identify what are like the 5 or 6 modern cards that I would want to add to my collection most that aren't completely out of reach for me, like thousands and thousands of dollars. And this was one that I came up with. So once I decided that, I just became determined that I was going to go out and get this card at any cost. The seller of this card probably loves me. I'm pretty sure I set a new comp on this by a decent amount. I don't mind sharing that it was a comma card when I picked this up, and it was well outside my normal collecting budget, but I was able to fund it thanks to selling a lot of other cards that I took advantage of getting rid of and selling on eBay during that same kind of downtime that I had. And so I just ignored the rule of trying to get good value here, and I decided I wanted to add this card to my collection bad enough that I wanted to do it at any cost within reason. And I can tell you now, about maybe 4 weeks in the rearview mirror since I picked this up, I have zero regrets about being the person who set the new comp, quote unquote, on this Ohtani. This is one of the parallels that I enjoy collecting the most. I love the Rookie Cup. And in fact, I love this so much that I broke this rule yet again only maybe 2 or 3 weeks later and picked up this one to go alongside it. In a matching PSA 9, the pitching card from 2019 Topps, also featuring the Rookie Cup. I just could not be happier with this pair matched up together here. Again, favorite parallel, numbered to 76, exceedingly difficult to find, especially for Ohtani and with the Rookie Cup. Great team color match with the 2019 Independence Day design and those red Angels uniforms as well. And as I have to give some credit to my buddy Eric over at Those Back Pages, but was talking with him recently about how this is really the first time that I can think of since 1954 Topps with the Ted Williams card that a player received 2 cards in the flagship Topps release. And Eric actually went a step further and reminded me, which I did not realize, or informed me, which I did not realize, these are even more sort of significant in a way, because I think the second Ted Williams card in 54 Topps doesn't have stats on the back, and it's a little bit different from a standard card in that way. So Shohei, what he's been doing in the game as a two-way player and continues to do here, and for him to get 2 cards in the 2019 release with the Rookie Cup, one showing each of his 2 kind of traits that he is known for, hitting and pitching. I think these are just so special. Honored to have this duo in the collection. He is just continuing to impress as I record this video here, as the 2025 postseason is underway. He became the first player in baseball history this year to have 50 home runs and 50 strikeouts in the same season. And that's the season following becoming the first player with 50 home runs and 50 steals in a season. He just hit 2 home runs in the Wild Card Series for LA and is the Game 1 starting pitcher in the NLDS upcoming against the Phillies. So just breaking the game of baseball Really unlike we've seen from almost anybody, except for maybe the player that we'll see on the finale card in tonight's video. But what he's doing is really special. I'm so glad I own that pair of cards. I don't mind that I quote unquote overpaid for them. I would actually disagree that I overpaid, even though I set new comps. So another example of a rule broken, and I have no regrets about it whatsoever. And before we get to the finale card, the pickup, and the other rule that I broke, I want to look at this care package that was sent to me by my good buddy Dylan. Love his channel, his enthusiasm for the hobby. He's become, honestly, one of my best friends in life, even outside of YouTube. And these cards have been waiting way too long. He sent me a pair of cards here that are both very, very meaningful. And we'll start with this one. This is not what you would have expected, I'm sure. In the Double D Mag Pro slab from Double D Grading here. This is from the Topps Dinosaurs Attack set that came out in 1988. And the quick backstory here, this is a wild set with like some really graphic images, as you can see by like this dragonfly eating this guy's brain here. But this is kind of a play on the Mars Attack set from the 60s. And I had sent Dylan a pack of this a long while back, and he pulled this card out of the pack on his channel. And I had commented in his comments that it had the Twin Towers pictured in the background there. And what was cool, Dylan hadn't noticed that. He thought it was really wild, and he clearly seemed to appreciate the set a lot. And I know Dylan collects unopened product or unopened wax packs, especially non-sport and like movies packs from the 80s. And I had picked up like a bunch of unopened packs of this stuff. So because he liked it so much, I sent him another pack. And I guess apparently I didn't catch this, but I guess on a live stream, he caved in at one point and opened that other pack that I sent him and pulled another one of this very card, which reminded him of me and the comment that I had left and the Twin Towers in the background there. So Dylan being very gracious, and in the wonderful note that he sent me alongside these two cards that we're looking at tonight, kind of told me the backstory behind this, and it makes it even more meaningful. Just a great kind of hobby connection and YouTube connection that I will always think of when I take a look at this card. So very meaningful stuff there from Dylan. And then the other one is more your standard fare, and this is this is mind-blowing. I just appreciate this so much. Let's just take a look at the card, and I'll get into some of the reasoning. Check this out. This is a 1973 Calbee Sadaharu O. A beautiful example here. Look at this photograph. And I'm sparing you, the full note. Dylan wrote me a wonderful note along with these two cards. But basically what he said is he picked up this card and another graded version of this card at the same time, knowing that he would send one of the two to me. And that's so special and meaningful. And he did that because he knows that, like him, I love the home run records, whether it's the single season record like Aaron Judge, or the all-time record on the Globe, really, which is owned by Sadaharu O. The photograph here is fantastic. And Dylan knows from he and I chatting that this is a player who is poorly represented in my collection. And I hope to rectify that in the future, and hopefully the near future, because I like my collection to be kind of a history of the game, and not just the game in the US, but the game anywhere it's played, including Japan. And Dylan, for you to pick this out and think to send this my way, it's just so special. I'm so glad that this is the first proper playing era Sadaharu O card that I own. And I will always think of you and our friendship anytime I run across this in my collection. And I hope that this becomes kind of the cornerstone or the building block for me to expand that Sadaharu O collection in the future. So I can't thank you enough, buddy. I certainly will reach out to you individually, but you couldn't have sent a pair of more meaningful cards, personal touch, and then one that has just a hobby touch and is a home run, pun intended, for the way that I collect the sport of baseball. And that is a great segue. We've talked about now the individual single season home run record. We've talked about the global career home run record by Sadaharu O. And in the finale of today's video, I want to look at one last pickup that also broke a rule. Now, my rule that I tend to stick with these days is I usually avoid, with some exceptions again, the chrome and shiny products in Modern. I prefer to go after the paper or standard flagship parallels like the ones that you see laid out here in the background, whether it's black or Independence Day or even Topps Gold numbered to the year. But never say never, and sometimes you have to break your own rules. And with this last card, I broke that rule and picked up one of the cards that I desired most, featuring the all-time career home run leader with an asterisk next to his name here in Major League Baseball, Barry Bonds. So without further ado, here's the last card for tonight's video. Excited to have one at last. This is a card that I have coveted for probably a decade or more now, and I've seen quite a few of my pals here on YouTube show one off, and I finally have my own copy from 2006 Topps Chrome. This is the Black Refractor of Barry Bonds. And the reason I wanted this, it's a late career Bonds card, but it is probably my favorite overall image on any card of the man. And just like Sadaharu Oh, he's a player who is not as well represented in my collection as I would like him to be. And this is a card that, unlike some of his really, really crazy stuff, is still affordable. It's not a cheap card, but it's not an exorbitantly expensive card at all either. Certainly far less than I paid for the Shohei Ohtanis that we looked at earlier. And just really special. And the reason this makes sense to me, not only am I strengthening my Bonds collection by picking this up, and not only does it just look fantastic, but they made these refractors better back in the day than they do these days. And if shiny cards and the Topps Chrome refractors that were coming out here in 2025 looked like this and glowed like this and had etching in the uniform like this, then I would probably be more open to devoting more of my hobby budget to picking up these shiny cards. But from the early 90s all the way through the mid 2000s when this came out, they really made incredibly looking shiny cards. So that is why, even though I tend to stick to flagship standard kind of paper stock parallels, it made sense to break that rule in this case and add a beautiful card of MLB's career home run leader to the collection at long last. So great stuff here tonight. Really excited to add all of these, whether they are cards that I picked out on my own or cards that were sent to me by my good buddy Dylan. I love each and every one of them. I think they all fit wonderfully in my collection for the reasons that I've kind of laid out here. And they are a great reminder to me to occasionally, anyway, break your own rules. So that's all for this one. I appreciate you stopping by. I know there's a lot of great content out there, and it means a lot that you spent some time listening or watching mine. I'll be back soon, as you know, with some more content. But in the meantime, just keep enjoying the hobby, everybody. Take care.